Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 3 p.m. show, where here we see the lives of students when they're not bound by books and the higher authority. Today we have a rather very special guest. Not only do we have not much expect, because it's the literal school captain of Chatswood High School, appearing in so much media, sponsors, events, and he's essentially the quintessential people's man. So it's the man, the myth, the legend. Give it up for Kartikay Kapruwan. Hi there, Kartikay. Lovely to have you here in the show.
Thanks for having me today.
Feeling a bit nervous right now because it's a little celebrity.
No.
All right then. So, obviously, there's not much to be said, but one of you tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Kartikay. I came to Chatswood High School in year 9. And ever since being in Chatswood High School, I just loved the environment and just the amazing, friendly nature of the students at the school. And yeah, I guess that's about my school self. And in terms of my personal self, I like to go on runs. I also recently restarted playing the guitar after not having played for a while because of the academics and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like to test myself and push myself to learn new things.
That is very lovely to hear, Kartikay, and what an inspiration of a life you had. So, I think the best way to start us off is, you mentioned before that you actually came here on year 9, correct? Maybe perhaps you want to tell a little bit more of your origins here, or like of what happens when you arrive here at year 9 and how you came to be to the man you are today.
Yeah, so honestly, there isn't much to be said in terms of where I was before this. But in terms of when I came to the school in year 9, it was, I believe, week 8 of term 2. And that time, yeah, just being new to the environment, new to the school. The school had just started the construction, so it was really, really difficult to get from place A to place B. But over time, with the amazing friends that I made and the amazing teacher and the support that we had at the school, I was able to feel right at home. And eventually, this school, even though I was so new to the school, and even though I had just gone into, the school had not the school, but the entire state had gone into lockdown literally 2 weeks afterwards. Despite all of that, it still felt like this was home, and felt like I belonged here. And that's something that I cherish for life and just want to help other people feel the same way about. Yeah. And I guess in terms of the sort of journey I had, I don't think it wasn't anything I would say, how should I put this? It was a journey I feel like is quite normal in terms of how one can proceed from just pursuing their interests at the school, making new friends, learning new things, exploring the different extracurriculars, different options that the school offers in terms of both lifestyle and in terms of academics, and just finding out who you are, I guess, what your sort of favorite subjects are, what your interests are, and those sort of things.
Interesting. I guess the only difference is that you somewhat got the lucks on your side as well, because from that normal journey, it suddenly took a turn, and suddenly you're just the top student, and you're just on top of the entire school and such. Well,
I wouldn't put it as being at the top of the school or anything such that. No, but I guess what it was just I pursued what I actually wanted to pursue in terms of the interests that I had, whether it be the sports, the different clubs that the school offered. And I believe that if anyone just follows that, they can achieve the same, in fact, they can achieve much better things if they're just true to what they like and who they are.
It's rather inspiring, Kartikay. And I guess that really does bring out the fact that, like, even the best people have to come from somewhere, right? And I guess normalcy is sometimes what it takes to become the best, you know? So that's very admirable. All right, then. So, on to the next topic. And that's regarding more about in your free time here. Obviously, as a person who's been in extension, both at one point, right? And then earlier you have so much more time we had to work on as a school captain and by extension prefect and a bit of SRC, I believe. Surely that would be a lot of burdens on you. So it'd be very interesting to know what would you do to take off that burden, like to relieve some stress, you would say? What will you usually do in your free time?
I guess one of the most important things when it comes to releasing that burden and sort of easing off that burden, I would say, is just do anything that's not causing that burden. For example, if for there's academics that's causing burden, just completely ignore academics for a while. Completely. Just for, even if it's for 10 minutes, for an hour, whatever, just completely. Because you need to have that sort of outlet to be able to just push your mind towards something else. Some people like walking, some people like cooking, some people like eating, like myself. A bit of both, actually, cooking and eating. But yeah, I think one thing I just remember doing throughout year 11, year 12, when the academic sort of academics and the responsibility started to add up, was that I set aside specific times aside from my study time that was specifically just for a personal sort of me time, whether it be me just playing guitar, listening to music, or at the time I used to actually play the flute as well, too, playing the flute. Yeah, and then that's something that I still aim to include in my time, where I'm having some sort of time allocated towards myself, where I can just de-stress, completely forget about what I was doing literally just minutes ago, and just focus on being able to get into the mindset of, okay, I'm going to restart studying now without feeling the stress. And one thing I believe, one of the most sort of fundamental activities you could do for that is just physical activity. Just completely physical activity. Just either it's running, walking, just laying on your back for a while and rolling around, and not saying that I've ever
But maybe.
yeah, just anything starts to get your body moving, because even the science, like for example, I do PDHP, and they tell us about how the different hormones that's released due to exercise, for example, endorphins, those are the happy hormones. Those sort of things help you de-stress really, really effectively. Yeah.
Well, that is a very interesting. Well, I mean, it's quite obvious as insight as well. If you want to get rid of a problem, just don't do the problem. Just ignore it. And it's also rather interesting how it is also an absolute as well, where like the best way to de-stress is really like none of it. Because like I think it's a very common thing for like a lot of us is that we want to deviate, we want to de-stress, but there's still a bit of a nagging feeling. It's like when you're on a holiday, but you still can't put your mind off the study, so you study during the holidays, or maybe like you just study less. And in a way, like it's maybe works for some people, but I think for a good majority of us, it just kind of like degrades our performance as well. So that's rather interesting. And the fact that you brought up physical activities just enlightened me in a way that like, maybe that's why I quite like doing all the workouts, and maybe why I was so interested in those stuff, because in a way that it physically, like you can feel the stress coming out with every movement that you do. So, and it's quite euphoric in a way. Like it just feels like, oh, it's just the weight's off now for now. So that's very interesting in a free time. But I guess the main issue that I personally struggle with is that momentum when you de-stress. Because let's say you're studying, you're on a roll right now, but you feel like, oh, I'm too stressed, so I'm going to de-stress, and you ignore it completely. And it is very much a common thing. I think a lot of people relate to this, is that you're trying to get back on it. And that means you have to start from the completely zero stress, and you have to work your way up to gain more momentum back in that studies. And because of that, the de-stressing time takes a lot longer than it's supposed to be, or a lot shorter and stuff like that. So how would you say you would combat that and make it more consistent?
So I guess my original comments regarding de-stressing and getting away from problems that are causing the stress, they apply to all majority of the cases, but I feel like academics is a bit of a gray area. Because what happens with this is, in areas that you want to excel, oftentimes stress is a motivating factor, and that stress causes you to try to perform your best at times. Of course, high levels of anything is wrong, because high levels of water can cause serious damage to your body. So high levels of stress can do so much worse. But if you think about it, you would want to go into a maths exam feeling a bit stressed, rather than just completely going free flowing into the exam, because that is what sort of grounds you to just consistently apply yourself throughout the test. But when it becomes a issue that it's causing you, for example, if you're studying at home and that stress is continuously just building up and from all the different activities that you're doing, something I would say there is one thing is just for first step is sort of to step away. Second, I would say is to reflect on what specifically is causing the stress. And through reflecting, you're able to sort of break down a lot of things because when a lot of times when these multiple things are causing you to stress out and the stress to build up, you can often break it down into smaller chunks. For example, my maths homework is causing me my entire maths homework is causing stress for me. Now, what is that maths homework? That maths homework is 3 chapters. Now, how much time am I spending on those individual chapters? Chapter 1, let's say half an hour. Chapter 2, an hour. Chapter 3, let's say 15 minutes, because not that many questions. And so now that you've broken it down, now you can address those things individually, right? And so now that you've broken down and you can see those individual sections, you can approach them step by step. So 15, 30, an hour. Once you've started breaking down, once you've started attempting those things and finishing them off, that's where the momentum comes from, because now you're building up speed. Now you've just finished the 15-minute worksheet. Now you're halfway through the 30-minute the workload, and now you're just seeing that you've just progressed through this entire idea of the maths work that was causing stress for you, because now that you've begun to go forward and break those things down and finish those things off, now you've gained that sort of internal validation that you can actually finish these things and that you can overcome the stress that's causing you. And once you finish that entire maths work, then whatever it may be, you're going to approach that with a much more positive attitude that you can do it. And so sort of linking back to the momentum part, it ultimately comes back to just at the end of the day, if something's causing stress for you, then you have to get rid of it. And the 2 options are, like I've said, just either ignore it for a while or just break it down and try to complete it step by step. Because ultimately, if there's something that's causing you stress, then it's something that's challenging you. And in my sort of personal philosophy is that humans are sort of human, and modern society is just, we want to complete something that's challenging us because that's much more rewarding. When we see ourselves completing things that have challenged us in the past and that have inherently been stressful for us, we're able to see how we've overcome that, and now we are able to intrinsically have that motivation and have that momentum to go forward.
I'm at a loss of words. That was all inspiring. We got a bit deep. It was supposed to be like, what should you do in your free time? And then went on ahead to yes. So this is the paradox of human beings. We love ourselves a challenge, but that is very much the way it goes, right? And I guess that I'll definitely have to learn myself to break it down in a way, because self-reflection would be a rare thing. Because why would you self-reflect while you're taking a break? It makes sense, but you never really put 2 and 2 together. But now it does, and you've enlightened me on that. I guess I'll be doing that a bit more often. So yeah,
I think it also is different from individual to individual, because one thing that may work for me may not work for another person, right? So there is a lot of trial and error when it comes to just finding strategies for yourself that are going to be just suited that's going to be molded to your ability to handle different levels of stress. Because some people, they don't get affected at all. I'm not one of those people, as much as I wish to. But some people have zero levels of stress because they can just, regardless of what challenge is coming up, they just continually know what they need to do. But other people, they need to be able to have that sort of action plan in terms of how to deal with different challenges that they may face.
Well then, I guess we'll just learn more about ourselves and we'll figure it out by then. Now, back to another question here, and that is more specifically on you being a captain. Now, in many ways, you have the most shining future out of all of us. Not only do you lead many things, you have so many connections, you also got yourself pretty good grades as well, great PR, and, of course, great position. So it'd be interesting to know of what you want to do after school. like any career paths or even not any careers in mind, you may have any general things you want to do once you're done.
I guess before going into the future, I just wanted to say, in terms of the present, in terms of the position that I have, it's rather than a position of sort of power, I feel it's just a greater opportunity for service, because being captain isn't setting me aside from the incredible people in our cohort and in our school. It's just allowing me. It's just giving me an opportunity to be able to output more, sort of my make more contributions to our schools in terms of different events that we're working on, or different ways I can just serve our student body. And that's something that I believe that every prefect does to an extent. Oh, not to an extent, but that's inherently what student body does.
Point of prefects. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in terms of the brightest future, I feel like I personally know many people who have incredible futures lined up ahead of them. And yeah, that's just one thing that I wanted to say. And continuing forward, is just that in terms of what I want to do in future, I still want to learn, because the more I've learned in high school, I've realized that there's so much that I haven't learned, and so much that there is to learn, because that's one of the ultimate paradoxes of learning. It's that the more you learn, the more you realize that you haven't learned anything. Yeah, because there's just
something is like, oh, there's so much more.
So much more, and that's something that I want to pursue. And lining up that with my interest in science, I believe that I just still want to be a learner for the foreseeable future, in terms of, for example, pursuing options in sciences, and learning the different things, as much things as I can, until I find out what my interests are in science.
So to clarify, you're essentially, after school, you essentially want to keep learning, but it's not that you found the path, but you just you want to keep going on this learning path until you figure out which path to take. So is that correct?
Well, it's somewhat correct, because I do have ideas in mind in terms of what path I want to take. But in terms of my sort of personal ambition, personal goal, it would just be, if I were to encapsulate everything that I want to do after high school, whether it be my occupation or whether it be the university degrees that I want to pursue, it would just be to learn more things. Ultimately, yeah. Because, for example, if in university, I personally currently want to pursue something in science, something in the STEM field, and that is quite a broad umbrella term that I'm using at the moment, and that encompasses a lot of things, whether it be practical things or just theoretical sciences. And so, yeah, something within that, I would say anything that encompasses. In terms of the occupation, anything that encompasses lifelong learning, for example, just anything in the science, because science is something that I'm very passionate about. So anything in the sciences, I would pursue that.
Right. And so that means that moving forward, it will be more on as long as I get to learn something new every day, I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Wow. That is literally the most ideal student answer that I've ever heard in my entire life. And I'm genuinely inspired, because I think there's a bit of a stigma right now with our school. I mean, I can already met so many people who was like, gosh, I have to learn this, I have to learn that, I have to do this, study that, and after that, I can't wait for school to end, and I don't need to study that ever again. But in reality, us as humans, we're just natural learners. We want to learn something. Maybe it's not the thing you want, but we'll learn something eventually, even things that we don't want to. So in a way, it's to really tap into that instinct to continue learning. And in this case, the best part about being school is not that you stop learning, but it's the ability to learn the things you want to learn, which is in a way a very fulfilling path in a way to. And then I think that's also the most beautiful way to say it. Oh yeah, well, it's not I'm totally gonna just take this and whatever. No, I get to do the things I want to do, learn the things I want to do, and let it be for myself, which is rather inspiring. So that's great to know. Now, here's another thing about leadership. I mean, about the leader thingies. So, I think the resources of being a good leader are basically abundant internet. I've had previous schools as well that essentially took up a few resources on how to be a good leader, We've got the books, we got all sorts of books, all sorts of videos, all sorts of blog posts on how you be a good leader. And in a way, it's helping us in a lot of ways because it just makes us be better people. Even if we're not leading people, being a good leader is just good people in general. But so I would like to know more of your insight as a actual school leader. Like, is there any tips or like any additional things that you learned of how to be a leader that's not like in a way common sense to people?
I think that is a very good question in terms of
Yeah.
to make me think about all the things
Yeah,
that I've
it's
learned.
alright.
Yeah,
You can take your
just
time.
sort of coming through in different experiences I've had in the past, almost a year actually. Our term's almost over. Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah, and sort of even going through that, just as a leader throughout high school in terms of the SRC and different activities that we had. But one of the main things I believe is that you need to be able to set aside specific delegated time for leadership work and work that's your personal life, right?
Yes.
And in school, a student's personal life is comprised of their actual personal life and their academic life.
Yes.
And so, if you're able to manage those three things in balance, that is something I believe a great leader would be able to do. And that's something that makes a good leader. Being able to manage and delegate different tasks to to specific times, and being able to see that, okay, I have these many tasks that I need to do,
Okay.
and I have these many resources that I can do these tasks through.
Hmm.
And now, how am I going to be able to best and sort of make my most optimized arrangement of resources to task? And the resources can be time. The resources can be actual physical resources for specific activities.
Mhm.
It can be encompasses everything. And that is one thing that I believe that is something that I've learned to because it's something that I'm still learning to do as a leader. Yeah, and that is something I sort of learned that I wish that I had learned previously, because that would have been able to put me through because the first few terms that we had as leaders,
Yeah.
we're scrambling trying to find out how to best make use for our
Yeah.
resources, time, how to balance the different things. And I believe, actually, in retrospect, learning those things physically is probably the best way I could have learned them. And regardless of what blog post I would have read about it or what YouTube video I would have watched about it, not having experienced it would have been much less of an effective way of learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
And,
it's one thing
yeah.
to know, one thing to do.
Absolutely. And I believe this is common for everyone, whether they be a leader or just be a member of the student body. It's just that through experiences, they're going to learn so many different things that regardless of where their position is in terms of leadership, in terms of academics, even their personal life, as you grow older, you're just going to learn more things. And that's something that it's something that I've been continuing to learn as I grow older. But being a leader has amplified the fact that, amplified the sort of personally speaking, amplified the set in stone fact for me that I'm only going to be able to learn things through watching other people learn and through learning them
Yourself.
myself. Yeah.
Yes.
Alright then. I guess that is, well, you've heard it, folks. It's from the school captain himself. It's not just about learning. Learning is doing too. And I guess that's basically it. Now, let's go to another side of this. You've made many speeches in the past for almost all our school events. I think there's one for the most of our carnivals, during our assemblies, all that stuff. And it's quite special, or in this case, quite impressive, how you managed to keep up with all these speeches. And not only that, we're talking about like public speeches, in front of hundreds of people, of all different peoples with all sorts of different reactions. And like, in a way, our cohort is also rather a colorful bunch. So in a way, some people would like to know the tips that you had in order to make these speeches a lot more smoother, and also how you can grit yourself up to talk to these many people.
I just want to make a disclaimer before I say anything that I was terrible at public speaking. Like I struggled a lot with terms of projection, in terms of being able to speak at a specific cadence, or so when I get nervous, I often speak really quickly, right? And that is something that I've worked on throughout, and yeah, just worked on throughout my journey and throughout high school, through making presentations, through small speeches for assessment tasks, and those sort of things. In terms of speeches that I've made and worked on during my leadership, I believe one of the most integral part of that has been the co-captain, Isabel Coelho, who has helped me through, who has helped write a lot of, because every time we have done speeches, we have done them together. And so we have co-written, in fact, every speech that we have done, we have co-written. And that has been incredible. And I just wanted to say that is how I believe that having someone as capable as Isabel Coelho has been just incredible part of this journey. And in terms of just speaking in general and being able to present yourself during speeches, that I believe ultimately comes with practice.
Just practice.
There's going to be times you're going to mess up. There's going to be times you're going to fumble. That's okay. I remember this one time, one of my first speeches that was an impromptu speech was at the writer activity, that the writer excursion that we had. And we had to thank the hosts, and I'll just mutter out in that time was, and can we get a round of applause? And half of that students couldn't even hear it because the mic wasn't even upheld to me. So those moments of just mistakes and often embarrassment, those things are truly what make you learn and just understand how to handle different situations when it comes to public speaking. And I just think that one of the most fundamental ways to be a better speaker is to speak, and speak whether you make mistakes, whether you get it the first try. One of the only ways I have learned is being able to put myself out there, making mistakes, and speaking.
Well, yeah. I guess that is the one thing most people need to hear about that. If you want to have to be good at talking, is just keep talking, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it's quite inspiring as well to hear that you come from like someone who like quite not that great at speaking and such, and here you are being able to talk face to face as well. Not gonna lie, I mean, I personally had some not personal problems with talking, but like sometimes even if you're good at talking, you're gonna fumble up anyway. You could be like a master. I don't want to say master. You can be good at talking. Sorry, you can be good at talking, but even sometimes, especially when crowds, the mistakes can pop up very frequently. So I guess, and to know about the advice is really just keep going. Really, in case you don't succeed, try again. Right. So, yeah, I guess that's something to take in for getting good at that. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the real meat of the video here, and that will be being a school captain. And I'm more so curious, out of curiosity, the machinations of it, what goes behind when you're a school prefect, and the stuff you do with your, with your prefects and such. So I was wondering, like, if you can bring us a little bit of insight on what you guys do during an event.
So a lot of our ideas we have so one of the main things our initiatives and our projects are based around is through a vision statement that we had created and once we were elected as prefects. And that was to reinvigorate the spaces that we have at Chatsworth High School. Because being a newly reconstructed and re-renovated school, there's so many places that can be made so colorful and vibrant across the school that represent who this Chatsworth student body is. And small things like, for example, there's a Cafe Chatty performance that's happening very soon. Tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow. And then it's just small things like that. And we have just identified, okay, this is our main goal of reinvigorating spaces. And how do we, through every activity that we work on or every events that we attend, how can we work towards achieving that? Whether it be a small hint towards it, whether it be our entire project just based around that. We want to ultimately link back to our goal of reimagining Chatsworth High School, because we believe every student who attends the school will leave behind a legacy at this school. And one of the physical ways they can do that is through these different spaces that we have and different activities that we're organizing that are going to allow them to express their allow the student body to express who they are.
I guess, yeah, and I guess that's good to know that's the main goal of it, because that is, I guess, one of my pet peeves about this school is that there's so much space that we could use for literally anything, yet it's literally out of bounds. So I'm great to hear about that, and hopefully we'll look forward to more of that development. I think, okay, one last question I would say, which would be, I think, my most daring question of all, is that as a representation of our entire school, and by extension, our generation, the Generation Z, we tend to get this bad rep from parents, from teachers, and more also mainly adults and previous generations, that as Gen Z, we don't have this drive, that we like to half-ass a lot of things, and that we're generally lazy, or that we're just doomed to fail and such. Now, and also there's also the, if you see TikTok, social media, it's usually our generation that do the stupidest things and stuff. It's hilarious. So, how would you see the future of our generation in that case?
I believe every generation has a stage at which the previous generation criticizes them, but because there will always be a generational gap between the previous generation and our generation, and that gap can come in the form of, for example, the different language that we have, pretty much the different colloquialism that we use, the different trends, the different choices that we make, that the previous generation would have not been aware of or just questioned at their time. But then it's important to note that the generation before us had a generation which criticized them. But that generation was generations which have created space shuttles, that have created satellites that have gone around the Earth, that have included doctors which have made new discoveries, that have propelled us. That generation included scientists who have, for example, this going back to the scientists that have created a vaccine for COVID-19 in the most incredible time frame, right? Yeah, exactly. Crazy. And so if that generation was once criticized and then now has not evolved, but sort of grown to become this generation that we look up to, that many of us look up to, then I believe there's hope for our generation to do the same. Because there will be people who criticize us currently. But over time, as people of our generation grow, as they mature, as they learn new things, we'll have their contribution, which the future generations will look up towards us and think that, oh wow, that they have achieved so much. And although that is something that we may not be able to see right now, I personally, in personal opinion, I would say, is that we are capable of so many things. We're incredibly, incredibly capable people. We have incredible potential in this generation. And we will be able to achieve many, many things in the years to come.
Well, you've heard it, folks. We still have hope, and we still have a lot more time before our generation ends. So yeah, that's essentially all of you got for today. Would you like to say one final saying to the audience?
Chatswood High School, especially the year 12, this is our year, and we're going to make the most of it. Regardless of how much time we have at the school, just remember that you are in control of the legacy that you leave behind, and the legacy that's going to be written as part of our school's collective history.
We do this. We
got this. Chatswood High School, we got this.
All right then. So that's all we got for today. Thank you very much, Kartikay, for coming along. We hope for the best of your futures. And that's all we got for us as well. So be sure to tune in for next time where we get in someone else. So until then, see ya.